Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Mondays with Mover. I am Mover, cwlemoine, author of the Spectre series and the Alex Shepard series. If you haven't already, please sign up for the Folds of Honor Fight for Honor 2019 DCS tournament. First place will be a DCS flight with me, plus the F-18C HOTAS add-on grip and a DCS module of your choosing from Eagle Dynamics. Second place will be a DCS flight with Gonky and a DCS Eagle Dynamics module of your choosing, and then the third place is just an Eagle Dynamics module of your choosing. It supports a worthy cause, Folds of Honor, which supports the fallen and injured in combat, their families, to get educational scholarships. So I hope you'll support it. If you don't want to participate, use the link and make a donation. The more people that sign up, the better off it is. And if we get a lot of sign-ups, then it gives the argument to do it again next year. So today's episode, I didn't have time in the last episode to get to the debrief, but after we land, typically we'll go download the lines, so the actual Tacview, look at the tapes and everything. So today, Wags and I got together right after the flight, so this is actually delayed, but we got together and did a kind of semi-fighter debrief just to extract some lessons learned, talked about how we can do better in the next time. So this is just how a debrief works. It's nothing. Wags did a great job, but we debrief. That no one has a perfect flight. No one does everything perfect, because if they did, we would never have to train. So we train, we make mistakes, we learn, we debrief, and we do better. So please take that on board. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for watching. All right, Wags, welcome back from our high aspect BFM flight. We'll run this debrief kind of like we would in the normal squadron, obviously with the limitations of we're not face-to-face, but we do phone debriefs all the time. So coming back, we start out kind of chronologically like we did the brief. For the briefing, a couple things I need to clean up. I could have been a little bit more clear on kind of the setups and what I was looking for, and how we were going to run that. I was told, actually, since we've flown, it's actually 30 degrees in the Navy. The Air Force uses 45 to 60, but 50 works. It's just whatever you brief. So I want to make that clear. Whatever is briefed will work out for these sets, but typically the Navy, if we're doing pure Navy stuff, we'll do 30 degrees. So bad on me on that. But a couple things I need to clean up for the brief. Just in general, making the expectations of the pads and stuff a little bit clearer. And there were issues that we recently found out that the comm is distorted in some places. So my apologies, there's a Rift S issue, and I don't know how we're going to fix that, but that's something I need to clean up. Did you have any questions from the brief, anything that came up in the air that you're like, hey, I could have maybe briefed that a little bit better?
No, negative.
All right, so departure, obviously we didn't do any taxi check-in or anything like that, a little bit non-standard. On the takeoff, the only thing I had was on the rejoin for the initial takeoff. If you'd have just cut to the inside, that probably would have saved us a little bit of gas, but otherwise, I thought the rejoin was expeditious, and we got to the G-Worm. I ended up hooking us around for airspace because I wanted to stay closer to the base. We still ended up far away from the base, but I wanted to keep us at least relatively close to home plate, just for fuel issues, because there's no point in driving in airspace that I'm not familiar with. So we'll do our G-Worm, and I didn't have anything other than maybe a little bit of delayed turn, and I could have helped you out a little bit more on that. Break coming back home. We'll get rejoin. You call bingo. We'll do a battle damage check, and after that, I'll get a little bit stripped as I'm trying to rejoin on you as we swap leads. But thanks for pointing us to home plate, getting us dialed in, and giving me the point out to the field. But other than that, I didn't really have anything up until the carrier break. At the carrier break, all I'll say is the references. It's a little bit more acute, so a little bit farther forward. And the idea with a section fan break is we are together in fingertip, and when I give you, obviously there's a limitation because we're not obviously seeing each other in hand signals and stuff. The idea is when I start turning, you start turning with me, so we both roll in the bank, and now you separate your spacing with G. So I pull, that 4, 5, 6 Gs, and you're easing your pull, but you're still banked up with me. So we both roll at the same time, and we pull at different rates. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
That's all I have. We taxied, we landed, and now we're here. Anything coming back home?
No, clear on the fan brake for next time. Look forward to trying that in the next flight.
For the sets themselves, TAC admin, I didn't see any training rule violations. We didn't bust the bubble at any point that I saw. I didn't see any safety of flight issues other than as a flight lead on the second set, I should have kept this in the valley and set a higher floor because I will knock it off because we get too close to the rocks. We're down to like 3,000 feet AGL, which is technically a hard deck bust. So hit on me on that. That's the only real safety issues I have. Do you have anything safety of flight, training rule violations?
Negative for me.
Okay. And alibis, I was a full-up aircraft, F-5, and you were a full-up F-18, no issues with your aircraft?
Negative.
Okay. For the sets themselves, what I'll do is I'll just run this real time just for time's sake instead of going through the setups and stuff and then talking lessons learned. We'll just run this real time and I'll stop as I see things. So here on the Tacview, I've got it queued up to right before the first setup. And if you look on the left, you'll see, actually I'll switch this around. On the left, you'll have your aircraft. The biggest thing we're going to look at is your calibrated airspeed. I've got my indicated airspeed for me. Your Mach, your altitude in MSL feet, the G we're pulling. We'll look at the turn rate right here, and we'll look at the turn radius, and then your any kind of other amplifying data we can look at down here for roll rates, pitch rates, and all that stuff. Okay. At the so the pads, as I briefed, is 15,000 feet and 400 knots. It looks like for both of us, I'm a little fast at the check away. You're a little slow. That's okay on the set. We can call ready. It looked like we were about where we needed to be as far as formation. It's less important distance-wise for these butterfly sets because you can make it in the turn. For 9K, 6K perch setup, it's very important to be on the pads, but as far as the distance goes. But as a flight lead, I can kind of make it work. The real thing is we're looking to turn in at about 3.5 to 4 miles. So. Or visual limits. So, and I didn't brief that. That's a hit on me. Basically, if you're looking over your shoulder and you can't see me anymore, or you're straining to see me, you would call padlock, and I would call turn in fights on. Now, that's another thing too. Turn in fights on is an Air Force comm. The actual comm for the Navy is turn in and then fights on at the merge. So, differences between the two. Sorry, I'm flipping back and forth, but anyway, we'll hit play. So we get turned in here. About 4 miles, which is good. Initially, I don't see you, and then I pick you up kind of late. But it looks like, did you lose me right here? Were you not seeing me initially on the turn in?
I can't remember if it was a case of I was blind on you or I was trying to get some distance for the left to left. Okay.
Because I was trying to, I mean, basically, if you'd just tightened your turn, this would have worked out great. But what happens here is I will try to force this merge because I don't want the lateral distance to get too far. Right. And what will happen is you're giving me all kind of angles right here. And that was not my intent. I wanted us to show up neutral at the merge, and that goes back to the brief. I could have briefed that a little bit better. So at the merge here, I'll call your turn. I'll actually tell you to start turning. And we will merge neutral close aboard. Now, looking at the specs right here, I'm about 417 knots, so plus or minus 20 is about good. You're already energy deficient. You're at 330 knots. That's not terrible, but it's something that needs to be corrected, especially per the brief, flying a flat fight. So we hit the merge, and we get into our turn here. So as we get through 90 degrees of turn, right here. This is where we assess. So 90 degrees of turn, and this is going back to the brief. I could have briefed this a little bit better, but through 90 degrees of turn, you start to assess what kind of fight am I fighting? Well, okay, his nose is going opposite direction. It's a 2-circle rate fight. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Your airspeed's a little low. It's not unmanageable, but it's going to take some work. The problem, though, is that your flight path angle is now starting to trend. It's not bad. Right here is not bad. This is, it's level to on the horizon. So this is not a bad picture right here. So we're good for now. So as we come around, again, assessing, I'm starting to make some angles on you. You can see here, turn rates are relatively sane. You've got a couple degrees on me. I've got, again, I'm holding steady at 400 knots, and now your airspeed's building back up. And that's fine. It's okay this is not a problem, but if you'd have maintained a constant G and just held that, you'd have been better off.
Right.
So we're going back across the circle. Second unique merge here. You're kind of giving up some angles. At this point, if you're trying to float out to get your airspeed back, you need to tighten down here. You need to, because giving me these angles as I turn is going to basically make this, you're giving me too much turning room. So we get here, we get to the second merge. That's fine. Again, we get to another assessment point, 90 degrees off. And what I start to see in my aircraft is you're climbing. And if we look at your flight path angle, you've got 12 degrees. And as a result, maneuver in relation to the Bandit, I start climbing with you because I'm 12,800 feet. You're about 600 feet above me. And you're climbing, which is fine, except you don't have the airspeed to do it. You're at 300 knots on the 400 knots. So with an aircraft that, honestly, an F-5, you should outrate me all day long. We're actually just prolonging this, and we're keeping this fight going on and on and on. So you climb up. I say, hey, watch your flight path angle. You get your nose back down, and now we're back. We're kind of in this PIO. So we go to 400 knots, 350 knots. We'll climb back up to 400 knots, and we're just neutral fight. This is a neutral fight all day long. And now here, I like this. You're starting to cash it in. You've got an altitude delta on me, and you're kind of over-rotating a little bit to try to cash that in. But you got to be careful here because you see this, you're skidding. When you skid like this, that's fine. You've made a whole bunch of angles, but I'm starting to tighten down too. So as far as the rate goes, we're about the same, and our radius is about the same. So while you're making some angles, it's still, we're 180 degrees off, and we really haven't gained anything yet. So I think right here is about to knock it off. Yeah, I'll reverse, because what I see as kind of the instructor here is that, we're just going to burn gas and rate around until, we're going to hit the soft deck. And I think for learning objectives, we had it. So big takeaways for this one. Airspeed management, rate fight is about patience. I liked that you over-rotated and tried to use God's G to try to make up some BFM errors, but if you'd have just been patient, maintained your rate game plan, you'd have come back around and been in a guns whiz much sooner and been able to employ. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. Anything from me? Any questions? Any spears coming back? Anything you disagree with on that one?
No, my takeaway is that should have kept in plane, maintained my sustained corner speed as best I can.
And there's nothing right. And there's nothing against using the vertical. That is a valid tactic to redefine the fight in the vertical or whatever. But for our purposes today, today, it was to show that how a rate fight works in the flat. So just a little bit different. All right, I'm going to go ahead and skip to the second one, which is the single circle fight. My game plan on this one was to force a single circle fight. And for the turn in here, for the setup, the same thing, a little bit of trouble with visual. I'm trying to, I think I'm calling it out going, hey, tighten your turn, because ideally, we'd pass neutral. I thought it went much better this time as far as us being a neutral fight. So at the merge here, what do we got? 480 knots, and right at 400 knots. It's a technique, but and we're both there. But because I'm about to force a single circle fight, this is about to put the hurting on you. And that's just the way it is. I'm going to basically take this and make it single circle, which makes it a radius fight. So I take it single. Go ahead.
No, it just looks like I was wings level to merge, whereas you already started a lee turn.
No, there's no lee turn on a single circle. I'm turning the opposite direction. I'm trying to force a close aboard pass, but I'll reverse the direction. There's no lee turn. So right here, this is, we assess 90 degrees off, winning, losing, or neutral. Right now, we're neutral. But if you look at energy states, 426 knots. I've already gone to idle. I'm at 323 knots, and we're level. So that's fine, but what's going to happen is you're pulling for everything you hard. If I remember right, you're an afterburner right here, right?
Yeah.
So you're an afterburner. You're not going to get rid of those knots. I mean, if you'd gone, afterburner's good when you're slow and you've got your airspeed under control. Because I briefed this is okay. However, in the real world, if I have this much energy, I'm taking the fight vertical. That's all you can do. I mean, you really you have to go out of plane with that much energy advantage because you just can't. This isn't going to work. You know, if you look at the you're outrating me, but I've got a smaller radius, and this is a radius fight. So we're going to come back, force a second merge, which is fine. Now here, you got two options of the second merge. You can redefine the fight, make it a two-circle fight, which we didn't talk to, so that's fine. But because you're late to reverse your direction of turn here, it's given me angles because my only option at this point is to turn across your tail just because of all the angles that I've got made right here. You have to reverse the direction of the turn, but you do it late. So when you do this late, it gives me all of this separation right here. And now I'm doing 300 knots. You're still doing 480 knots. And, you know, that's, again, 0.4, 0.7. It's a radius fight, so we need to be out of AB, idle boards if you have to. You got to be trading in your AOA, where is it, 10? You know, I'm at 24. This is all going to be AOA. You're going to have to cash all that in. So that pushes you out at front.
Right.
And then as we go, you know, now, honestly, I wouldn't reverse right here. At this point, you can't. You take the direction of your turn and you start with a defensive fight because you're fully defensive at this point. And I keep the power up to try to get some speed back because I don't want it to get too heinous. But at this point, DLOs are met. I should have just knocked it off because that's not the point of what we're doing. And also, if you look, our AGLs, you know, we're at a training stop right now, so I should have stopped right here. But we'll go a couple more leaves, and there's really nothing you can do at this point. You know, even getting slow, the vertical's all you got, and you know we're still, you know, going back and forth here. So there's nothing else for that, and I'll call it right here. You know, 1,500 feet. I mean, that's just, I shouldn't be doing that. So anyway, big takeaways on that's energy management, and that's always going to be the thing. So idle, speed brakes if required. You know, if you need to, use the vertical, but set the flow direction early, get the turn going early, and manage your energy. Questions on that one? Anything coming back?
No, obviously my big flaw here was way too much smash coming to that single circle.
All right, second one here on the setup. I give you a little bit more of a lead turn. We will hit this merge kind of close aboard. I would say, again, it's kind of a late turn out of right here. You should have been turning. The idea is to pass at the control zone back here. So if you could pass at the back edge or even the middle of the control zone, that's where you're aiming for because you want to lead turn that. But you'll be a little bit low and 500 knots, so we're fast. And so you've got a lot of energy to bleed down, which I think on this one, if I remember right, you'll actually go vertical downhill and cash in some of those knots. And I remember thinking that was pretty good. Yep. Let's see. So as we assess, let's see here, right there. So we're 90 degrees off, fairly neutral. I've bled down a little bit. You got your airspeed back under control, but look at this. You over-rotated, and you went 28 degrees, flight path nose low. That's not what we were going for, but as a BFM move, I don't have a single problem with this. This is how you correct from the previous one. You know, if your airspeed's real high and you don't have it under control, I'm okay with this. This is good because basically, look at your turn rate. We're in a rate fight, but you're using God's G to help your rate. You know, you're almost 20 degrees a second. Meanwhile, I'm doing what the F-5 will do. So good on you, man. That's a good maneuver here. So we'll come back from the second merge here, and again, you got the lead turned down. You may have extended just a little bit in the back, but I don't think there's any issues with this. I think you're in a good spot. You're a little fast, but you're definitely starting to win this fight very early, and I thought that worked out fairly well. And then as we come back around, you'll cash it in again. I'll watch your airspeed here. It bleeds down, so you square this corner.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say for this is don't get impatient.
Yeah, I got aggressive there.
You square the corner because you see a big juicy F-5 that you're like, okay, I'm starting to win. I need to square this corner and go for the kill. Well, the problem is when you square the corner, I'm still raiding around. You're cashing in everything you have, and you're losing. You're doing an instantaneous turn. So you do that, and now you're trapped. You're not trapped, but you're basically in lag. So right here, this is a decision point. And I know we don't talk about this, but if we back up just a little bit, right there. This is what's called an offensive perch setup. This is offensive BFM. We practice these. These are 6,000. This is a 6K. So it fights on at a mile. So if you look at it may be a little bit high aspect. Usually it's about 45, but seven aspects fine. But this is a high aspect set. So what you'll do is you'll pure pursuit me, which is fine. I used to do this all the time in the Viper. I would gun guys right off the perch because if you're really good with the gun, it works. The problem is when you pure pursuit or lead pursuit out of a mile, you're just basically collapsing the range, increasing the aspect, and you're going to drive yourself into a bad position. Versus if you're patient, if you have a little bit of patience, roll out. You don't even have to roll out. You just relax your turn. So you take it from this. You could lag BFM. Yeah, you go back to the elbow. Right. So if you go to the elbow here, what you'll do is, you're not really in a good guns web at all. In fact, if you were going to gun me right here, your nose would have to be out here. You'd have to be in a pure lead. So what this is going to drive is you're eating up your range, and now you're going to flush to the backside of the turn circle. That's okay. That's fine. You've got a superior aircraft, but in a non-training aid environment, if I'm actually fighting full up, I'm going to take every bit of that away from you. In fact, I'm going to go all the way down to 300 knots, and we're going to end up high aspect again because it's me. I've got so much of an energy advantage right now that that's what's gonna let's do it. But it's fine. What'll end up happening though is you'll just ride around and lag, and I mean, eventually, if you cut to the inside, I mean that's kind of a different thing. But we're just kind of riding around, and I go, okay, DLO met. So the biggest takeaway from that is to recognize I'm in an offensive position and drive, do a turn circle entry, and actually do some lag BFM because pure pursuiting, you have to be, in order to have a good guns track, you have to be in plane, in range, in lead for the bullet time of flight. I can't look at your HUD, but I don't know if you got any batter on it or not. But I would imagine if you had a gunshot, it was pretty fleeting. So that's what I saw. I mean, what'd you see in your jet?
Actually, I didn't even have a gun HUD up.
Okay. Yeah, so you wouldn't have had I think personally, you were too much, you were too pure pursuit / a little bit of lag to even have a gunshot, but definitely have the HUD up, have your symbology up. And this was a good example of a raid fight. So that's all I had, just basically recognizing when you're in an offensive position and then going to a offensive-minded game plan, which we haven't talked about. We haven't done any of those videos. We're kind of out of order, and that's why we do it that way. We do offensive first, so you can see that, and we do defensive, then we put it all together and do high aspect together. So that's all I had for that one. Any spears coming back? Anything you said for me on this one?
No, it felt a lot better than the first two-circle.
I thought overall it was a good job. This is a demo of how to do that. This is not a proficiency ride by any stretch of the imagination. So our objectives going out there were to demonstrate high aspect BFM setups in a safe manner, and the best basics to show what a two circle is and what a one circle is. And I thought we achieved those objectives today. I thought we did meet all those. We got some good learning points. I appreciate you flying with me. Thanks for being a good student. Anything from me before we're done here?
No, thanks for being a good instructor. And it's a very, very good learning experience. It's one thing to read about it and book learn it, and even practicing it in the game. But doing it, no kidding, with an IP and under the the pads and everything, it's a very different ball game. And it's one of those things that you watch a video and it's like, oh, that's really easy to do. It's a very different thing to actually do it.
Yeah, and it takes time. I mean, this is a foundation based on years of training. So, this is your first repetition doing it, versus most fighter pilots, by the time they get to their MWS, they've done it 100 times, 1,500 times, so it takes a while. It's not something you go overnight. But what I encourage people to do is to go out with a buddy and be disciplined and just practice, because it's easy to fix your mistakes, using the vertical, doing this and all that. But if you understand the basic concepts, then it doesn't matter. We could rotate this fight into the vertical. We could rotate it, 180 degrees, 135. It doesn't matter, because you've got the basics. You understand, energy management and being disciplined and knowing which fight you're seeing so that you can go out and react to it. So awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for flying with me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and thanks again. Just want to thank Wags again for being a good sport and being a part of the channel for this week. I hope you guys got something out of the debrief. Next week, I will show the video of me picking up the Corvette, which is today. So stay tuned for some 01 stuff coming to the channel, plus some other big things that I hope I'll be able to announce in the future. So thanks for watching. Please sign up for the Fight for Honor 2019, and I will see you next time. Excuse me. No. Oh! Meant a lot of that. Particularly fine with the doors off. All pots too. Don't be a douche. Rule number 1. Make them tell you no.